The desert was endless. Golden waves of sand stretched far beyond the human eye. The sun burned like fire above, and the wind carried sharp grains that cut against skin. For many days, a lone human traveler had walked across this dead world, searching for water, searching for answers, and maybe searching for hope. His boots sank into the sand with every heavy step. His throat was dry, his lips cracked, but still he moved forward. The desert wanted to kill him, but he was not ready to give up. He had fought harder battles before, and he believed that no land, no matter how cruel, could break his spirit as he climbed another dune. His eyes caught something strange. At first, he thought it was a trick of the heat, just another mirage. But when he blinked and wiped the sweat from his eyes, he saw it clearly. A small shape half buried under the sands, lying still. Almost swallowed by the desert, he rushed down the slope, his heart beating faster. The figure was not human. He realized at once her skin was pale silver with faint glowing lines that ran across her arms. Her hair, long and fine like threads of light, was covered in dust and sand. Her chest did not rise. Her eyes were closed, her body cold. He knelt beside her and touched her wrist. There was no pulse, no movement, no breath. For any other traveler, the answer would be simple. She was dead, left behind by the desert like so many others. But the human did not walk away. Something deep inside him refused to leave her like this, forgotten and buried. He brushed the sand away from her face. Her features were soft and young, but there was a sadness even in her stillness. He whispered to himself, "Who are you? Why are you here alone?" The desert gave no answer, only the howl of dry wind. His hands pressed against her chest. He tried to remember the training he once learned CPR. The rhythm of breath, the push of life. "Come on," he muttered. "Don't give up. Not here." He breathed into her lungs, pushed against her chest, again and again. But the silence did not break. Minutes felt like hours. The sun moved higher, burning them both. The human strength was fading, yet he refused to stop. Something about this fragile alien girl made him fight harder than he had in years. Finally, he dropped back, his chest heaving. His eyes closed for a moment as despair tried to creep into his heart. But then, just as the wind shifted, he thought he felt the tiniest movement against his hand. His eyes snapped open, her fingers thin, delicate, almost transparent, had twitched. "Wait, no, you're still here?" he whispered. His voice sharp with hope. He bent down again, his ear close to her lips. There was no steady breathing, but a faint tremor of air brushed against him. She was not gone, not yet. With new fire inside him, he lifted her carefully into his arms. Her body was light, too light. As if the desert had already stolen half her life, he carried her across the dune, searching for shelter, searching for anything that could give her another chance. But the desert was merciless. The horizon shimmered with heat, and every direction looked the same. The human's legs shook as he pushed forward. He could not let the sands claim her, not when he had already pulled her back from the edge of death. At last, he saw the broken shadow of an old stone wall rising from the dunes. Ruins, long abandoned, half buried under centuries of sand. It was not much, but it would block the sun. He carried her inside the crumbling shelter and laid her gently against the stone. Her face was still pale, her heart weak. He gave her the last drops of his water. Even though his own throat was burning, he placed his hand over hers, whispering again, "You will not die. Not today, not here." Outside, the desert wind screamed, as if angry at his defiance. Inside, the human sat beside her, refusing to move. He had no idea who she was, or why fate had thrown her into his path. But one thing was certain, he would not leave her to the sands. He had chosen to fight death itself, and somewhere, deep in the silence of the ruins, her chest rose with the faintest breath, a fragile spark of life that should not have been possible. The humans smiled with tired eyes, knowing the battle was not yet over, but the first victory had begun. The desert ruins gave a little shelter, but inside, the heat still pressed against the human like an invisible weight. He knelt beside the alien girl, watching her pale chest rise and fall so faintly that he feared it might stop again at any moment. Her skin was cool to the touch, her breath weak as smoke, her heart almost silent. The human's own throat was dry, his body exhausted. Yet he placed his ear to her lips once more. Yes, she was alive, but only barely. "Don't you dare slip away," he muttered under his breath, his voice shaking with both anger and hope. He had seen comrades die before. He had seen whole towns lost to war and famine, but something about this fragile girl made him fight harder. It was as if his soul refused to let her go. He remembered his training again, the rhythm of breath, the steady push on her chest. Again and again he pressed down, his muscles screaming with effort. Then he gave her air, his own breath flowing into her lungs. The sound of the wind outside became a cruel echo, whispering that she was already gone. But the human refused to listen. His hands trembled. But he would not stop. Time stretched, each second feeling like an eternity. His lips cracked from dryness. Sweat stung his eyes. Yet still he worked. "Come on, fight, please fight," he whispered as if she could hear him deep inside her fading world. For a long moment, nothing changed. Her body lay still, her lips blue, her glowing marks dull like fading stars. Then, suddenly, her chest convulsed weakly. A small gasp escaped her lips. The human froze, his heart racing. "Yes, that's it. Breathe," he urged, his voice breaking. She coughed softly, but her eyes did not open. Her body shook like a candle's flame in the wind, fragile and unsteady. He poured the last drops of water onto her lips. Letting the liquid flow gently inside, her throat moved slightly, swallowing. The sight filled him with hope. Even though he had nothing left for himself, he leaned against the stone wall, holding her hand in his. Her fingers were thin, almost weightless. He could feel the faint pulse now. Still weak, still fragile, but real. It was life, and it was enough to keep him going. The desert outside roared again, the wind carrying voices of the past. He looked out through the broken wall and thought he saw shapes moving far away on the dunes. Dark figures, too steady to be mirages. He narrowed his eyes. Was someone searching for her? Or were they searching for him? The human's chest tightened. If others were out there, they might not want her alive. That thought made him grip her hand tighter. He had fought death already. He would not hand her over to strangers. The girl stirred faintly, her lips parting. A broken whisper escaped, barely a sound, cold. Her voice was soft, weak, yet it sent a shiver through him. She was alive enough to speak, even if only one word. He pulled his cloak and wrapped it around her small body, shielding her from the desert's cruel touch. He held her close, his warmth against her fragile form. "Don't worry, I've got you," he murmured, his voice gentle now. She trembled once and then grew still again, falling back into unconsciousness. The human sat there, his arms around her. His mind raced with questions. Who was she? Why was she left here, buried in sand like forgotten bones? And why did he, a stranger on this world, feel such a powerful need to protect her? He looked down at her glowing marks, faint patterns etched into her skin like starlight. They seemed ancient, carrying meaning he could not understand. Her kind was unlike any species he had seen before. Fragile, yes, but also mysterious. She was not just anyone. She was someone important, someone the desert itself wanted to claim. The shadows on the horizon drew closer. The human stood slowly, lifting her once more into his arms. He could not stay here. If those figures reached the ruins, both he and the girl would be trapped. He needed to move. He needed to find a safer place before darkness fell. The sun dipped lower, throwing long golden rays across the dunes. The girl's head rested against his chest, her breath weak but steady. He whispered softly to her, as if she could hear him in her dreams. "I won't let you die, no matter what comes," with heavy steps. He walked back into the endless desert. The storm winds rose again, hiding his path. The shadows behind him followed, silent and dangerous, but the human held her close. Her faint heart beat against his chest. It was enough reason to fight, to endure, to defy the death that tried to claim her under the sands. The desert night came fast, the sun's fire faded, and the dunes turned cold and silver under the pale moonlight. The human's breath clouded in the chilled air, his body shivering as he carried the alien girl across the shifting sands. Her weight felt like nothing in his arms, too light, too fragile, like a broken bird he was trying to protect. He found a hollow between two tall dunes, a place where the wind was weaker. There he set her down carefully. Wrapping his cloak tighter around her, the stars above shone like countless eyes. Cold and distant, he looked down at her pale face, the faint glow of her strange markings shimmering weakly in the dark. She was alive, but her breath was still, shallow, her heartbeat faint. The human pulled out the last ration of dried food from his pack. He could barely chew it, his throat too dry. But he forced himself to eat a little. Then he crumbled the smallest piece and touched it to her lips. She did not move at first, but then her mouth opened slightly. A weak instinct, she swallowed. The sound so soft, he almost did not believe it. "You're still fighting," he whispered, his voice rough. It gave him strength, even though his own body begged him to rest. But rest was a danger. He knew if he closed his eyes too long, the desert silence would claim them both, so he stayed awake, watching her. He listened to every faint breath, afraid each might be the last. He held her hand, warming it with his own. For hours, nothing changed, and despair crept in like shadows. But then, just before dawn, something strange happened. Her glowing marks flickered, faint lines across her skin lit up as if stirred by an unseen force. The human leaned closer, his eyes wide. It was like watching embers come alive in a dying fire. Her chest rose deeper this time, her breath stronger, her eyelids trembled, then slowly opened. Her eyes were unlike anything he had ever seen. They shone faintly, reflecting the stars above, filled with both pain and wonder. For a long moment, she simply stared at him, her lips parted. Then a whisper escaped her throat, so fragile it was almost lost in the wind. "Why? Save me." The human felt his chest tighten. He had no easy answer. He could have said it was instinct, or duty, or stubbornness, but instead he spoke softly. "Because you deserve to live." Her gaze lingered on him, her breathing uneven. She seemed to search his face for something, truth, maybe, or purpose. But before she could speak again, her eyes rolled closed, and she fell back into unconsciousness. Yet this time it was different. Her breathing was steady now, her heartbeat stronger under his hand. It was not death pulling, her await was sleep, the body fighting to heal. The human let out a shaky breath. Relief washed over him, though danger was still near. Because on the horizon, under the rising sun, he saw them again. Shadows moving across the dunes, figures too steady to vanish like mirages. They were coming closer. His grip on her hand tightened. He had saved her once. He had brought her back from death itself, but now he would have to protect her from the living. Whoever they were, he could feel their intent in his bones. They wanted her gone. He lifted her again, feeling her small fingers curl faintly against his chest as if she trusted him, even in her sleep. That tiny spark of movement filled him with fire. She had chosen to live, even when her heart had stopped. Now it was his duty to make sure no one took that spark away. The desert wind rose again, sharp and cutting. He pushed forward, carrying her toward the ruins he had glimpsed in the far distance. Maybe they held shelter, maybe secrets, maybe answers. But above all, they held hope. The girl stirred once in his arms, her lips moving silently as if she dreamed. The human bent his head close, listening, and though her voice was no louder than a breath, he thought he heard her whisper one word: stay. It was not a command, not apply it, was trust. Trust placed in him, a stranger. A human alone in an alien desert, and for him, that single word was enough. Enough to fight, enough to endure, enough to defy whatever shadows chased them across the sands. The sun rose, painting the desert in fire and gold. The human steps grew heavy. But his spirit did not break, because in his arms the spark of life had returned, and he swore he would protect it. No matter the cost, the desert morning was cruel. The rising sun burned the sand until it shimmered like molten glass. The human carried the fragile alien girl in his arms. Her head resting against his chest, she breathed softly, her skin still pale. Her glowing marks faint but steady. He moved as fast as his tired legs could take him. Every step sank deep into the sand, slowing him down, but he refused to stop. He knew the shadows he had seen were not mirages. Someone was following them. And they were getting closer. The ruins ahead rose like broken teeth from the desert. Old stone walls, half buried by centuries of shifting sands. They offered shelter, maybe even a place to hide. The human forced himself forward, though every muscle screamed with pain behind him. The shapes on the horizon grew clearer. Tall figures cloaked in desert cloth, moving in steady lines. They were hunting, not wandering. Not searching by chance, but hunting. And he knew at once they were hunting her. He tightened his hold on the girl. She stirred faintly in her sleep, whispering something he could not understand. Her words were broken, weak, but filled with fear. He whispered back softly, "It's all right. I've got you." Even if she could not hear him, he needed to say it. He reached the ruins at last. Stumbling through the crumbling archway, inside, the air was cooler, shadows stretching across broken pillars. He laid her gently against a slab of stone, covering her with his cloak. Her eyelids fluttered but did not open. Her breathing was steady, yet she was still too weak to move. The human crouched low, peering through the cracks in the wall. The hunters were closer now, their movements sharp and organized. They carried long spears that shimmered in the sunlight. Their faces were hidden by masks, but their eyes glowed faintly. Not human, not friendly. His heart pounded. He had no weapon strong enough, no water, no food left. Only his determination and the fire inside him to protect her. But sometimes that was enough. The girl stirred again, her lips parting. Her voice was soft as dust, but he caught one word: run. Her eyes remained closed, yet she seemed to know what danger approached. He shook his head, whispering, "No, I won't leave you." The hunters' voices echoed through the ruins now, harsh and cold. They were calling out, though he could not understand their language, but their tone told him everything they were searching for her. Demanding she be found, the human pressed his back against the stone. His hand on the girl's shoulder. Her skin was cool, her body fragile. But there was warmth growing inside her now. Her glowing marks pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. It gave him hope. If she could survive the sands, she could survive this. The hunters entered the ruins, their footsteps crunching on stone and sand. The human's breath grew shallow, his muscles tense. He scanned the rubble for anything he could use. His eyes fell on a broken shard of stone. Sharp as a blade, it was not much, but it was better than nothing. The sound of the hunters grew closer. One of them stepped into the chamber, scanning. The shadows, the human gripped the stone shard tight, ready to strike. But just then, the girl stirred once more, her glowing marks flaring brighter. A soft pulse of light filled the dark chamber. The hunter froze. The glow had revealed her, weak but alive. The human's heart sank. But he did not hesitate. He lunged forward, slamming the stone shard against the hunter's mask. The crack echoed. The figure stumbled back, roaring in pain. The other hunters shouted, rushing toward the chamber. The human grabbed the girl in his arms again, holding her close. Her body was shaking, her glowing marks flaring brighter with each passing moment. It was as if her body was responding to danger. Fighting to live, he ran deeper into the ruins. His lungs burning, the hunter's footsteps thundered behind him, spears clashing against stone. Dust fell from the crumbling ceiling as the chase carried them into darkness. But the human kept running, refusing to stop. The girl's eyes fluttered open for just a moment. She looked up at him weakly, her lips trembling. Her whisper was fragile but clear. Why? Save me. The same question as before, yet filled with wonder, almost disbelief. He looked down at her, his breath ragged, his voice low and fierce. Because no one deserves to die alone in the sand. Her eyes glistened, then closed again. But her arms moved faintly. She clutched his cloak with fragile fingers. A silent answer, a fragile trust. The hunter's voices grew louder. Echoing in the endless halls of stone, the human pressed on. Deeper into the ruins, he did not know where the path would lead, but he knew one thing with certainty. He would fight, he would endure, and he would not let her heart stop again. The ruins swallowed them in silence. The deeper the human carried the alien girl, the darker the stone passages became. Dust fell from the cracked ceiling, and the sound of the hunters faded into echoes behind them. Still, he did not slow down. His arms tight around her fragile body. Finally, the tunnel opened into a vast chamber. Ancient walls stretched high above, covered in strange glowing carvings. The symbols were the same as the faint lines that ran across the girl's skin. Her body reacted to the place, her markings pulsing softly, like they were answering the walls. The human lowered her carefully onto a flat stone platform in the center. Her eyelids fluttered, her lips parting as if she recognized the chamber even. In her weakness, her whisper was soft, broken, yet filled with meaning. Home. Then she fell silent again, her chest rising slowly, her body trembling. The human looked around, his eyes wide. The ruins were not just shelter, they were sacred. Every wall told a story carved in light and stone. He traced one with his hand. Feeling the grooves, it showed tall alien figures, with the same glowing lines on their skin as the girl. But the story also showed war, betrayal, and one figure lying broken under the sand. His breath caught. He looked back at the girl, her fragile body on the stone platform. Was she the one from these stories? Or the descendant of someone long forgotten? Why had she been left in the desert, buried alive? Her heart stopped. Before he could think further, a sound broke the silence. The hunters' voices echoed again, faint but closer. They were searching the ruins step by step. The human's heart pounded. He had to be ready. But then, something changed. The stone under the girl began to glow. Her body lit up in response. Her glowing lines shining brighter than before. She gasped, her back arching as light spread across the chamber walls. The human rushed to her side. Holding her hand, her eyes opened, filled with silver light. For the first time, she spoke more than a single word. Her voice was weak but clear, carrying power beyond her small form. They wanted me to die. My own people. They feared me. Her body shook as she said the words, tears slipping from the corners of her glowing eyes. The human's jaw tightened. He could hardly believe it, yet the truth was carved all around them. She was not just anyone, she was chosen, marked by something greater and betrayed by her own kind. Left for the sands to claim, until he had found her. "You're safe now," he told her, his voice steady. "No one will touch you while I still breathe." Her small fingers tightened around his hand. For the first time, her touch was not weak, it carried strength. Trust, fragile but real. The light in the chamber grew stronger, spilling through cracks in the ceiling. It must have drawn the hunters, because their shouts rose louder. Closer, the human stood, his body tense. Gripping a broken spear he had taken from the ruins, he knew he was outnumbered, but leaving was not an option. He would defend her here, even if it meant his last breath. The girl's voice rose again, soft yet steady. "You fight for me? But why?" "You know nothing of who I am." Her silver eyes locked on his, searching. The human met her gaze without fear. "Because you were left to die." "And no one deserves that," he answered. "Because your life matters, and I won't let them take it." Her eyes filled with tears, but she did not look away. She whispered something in her own language, words the human could not understand. But her tone carried gratitude, sorrow, and hope. Her glowing lines flared, stronger than ever. The carvings on the walls answered, the chamber trembling with hidden power. The hunters finally entered the chamber, spears raised, their eyes glowing. In the light, they shouted, pointing at her, calling her something that sounded like cursed or forbidden. The human stepped in front of her. Spear ready, the girl sat weakly on the platform, her body trembling, but her eyes shining bright. She looked at him once more, whispering in a broken voice, "If you stand with me, you will be hunted too." He smiled faintly, despite the danger. "I already am," he said. Then the hunters charged, their weapons flashing in the light, and the chamber filled with the clash of fate. The chamber shook with echoes of steel and stone. The hunters rushed forward, their glowing eyes fixed on the girl who sat trembling on the platform. Their spears cut through the air with deadly speed, but the human moved first, his body fueled by fire he did not know he still carried. He swung the broken spear in his hands, blocking the first strike. The clash rang out, sharp and fierce. The force drove him back a step, but he held his ground. The girl gasped, her glowing lines flaring brighter, as if her body was reacting to the danger around them. The hunters circled, moving with cold precision. Their voices hissed in a language the human could not understand. But their meaning was clear. Kill her, take her life, erase her from the world. The human's heart pounded like thunder. He had no armor, no training for this moment, only his will. But he had faced death before, and each time he chose to defy it. Now he would defy it again. For her, he blocked another spear, twisting his body to strike back. The stone weapon cut across one hunter's arm, dark blood spilling. The figure staggered, but the others pressed harder. The human's arms shook with each blow, his breath heavy, his strength fading fast behind him. The girl struggled to sit up, her silver eyes glowed brighter, her body trembling with effort. She raised her small hand, weak but determined. The carvings on the walls blazed with light in answer. A low hum filled the chamber, ancient and powerful. The hunters faltered for a moment, their eyes flicking toward her. The human used that instant, striking hard, pushing two of them back, but a third slipped past his guard, spear slicing across his side. He gasped in pain, blood running hot. Still, he did not fall. He gritted his teeth and pushed forward, standing between her and death. The girl cried out, her voice breaking, "Stop, please." Her words trembled, but the power in them made the chamber shake. The hunters paused, their movements slowing as if bound by unseen chains. The glow from her skin surged, flooding the room with light. The human turned to look at her. Her body shook violently, tears on her face. She was hurting herself to protect him. Burning what? Little strength she had left. Don't, he whispered. Save your strength. But she shook her head. Her silver eyes locked on him. You fight for me. I must fight too. Her marks pulsed brighter. And the hunters staggered as if struck by invisible force. The chamber walls groaned, cracks spreading as the power within her burst free. The human rushed to her side, even as the hunters fell back. He gripped her shoulders, her body hot with energy that felt alive. You'll kill yourself, he said, his voice urgent. Her lips trembled, her voice soft but clear. Then I die. Not alone. The human's chest tightened, his throat dry. He pulled her against him, shielding her small body with his arms. You won't die, not while I breathe, he said firmly. She looked up at him, her eyes wide, shining with light and tears. Her hand clutched his cloak, fragile but strong in meaning, for a heartbeat. The world around them vanished, only her and him, life hanging between them. The hunters roared, breaking free of her force. Charging once more, the human turned. His broken spear raised, pain burned in his side, his strength fading. But he would not step back. He fought with everything left, each strike a promise that she would live. One hunter fell, another staggered, but they were many. The human stumbled, the spear knocked from his hand. A hunter raised his weapon high, ready to strike him down. But before the blow could fall, a blinding wave of silver light exploded from the girl. The hunters screamed, their bodies thrown back by the force. The chamber shook, dust and stone raining down. The human shielded his eyes, holding her close as the storm of energy raged. When the light faded, silence filled the ruins. The hunters lay scattered on the ground, unmoving. The girl collapsed into his arms, her glow fading, her breath shallow. He held her tightly, fear twisting in his chest. Her eyes fluttered open weakly, her lips barely moving. You stood for me, she whispered, her voice fragile. Always, he answered, his voice breaking. I'll never let them take you. She smiled faintly, her small hand brushing his cheek. Then her eyes closed again, her body limp. The human pressed his forehead against hers, whispering, You're not leaving me. Not now, not ever. The chamber was silent except for his breath. The hunters defeated, but the battle far from over. Because in his arms, the girl was caught once again between life and death, and he knew this fight was not finished. It had only begun. The ruins were silent after the storm of light. The hunters lay broken across the floor, their weapons shattered, their voices gone. Dust floated through the air, glowing faintly in the silver light that still lingered on the walls. But the human had no time to look at them. His eyes were only on her. The alien girl lay limp in his arms, her body fragile as glass, her glow fading like a dying star. Her breathing was shallow, each rise of her chest weaker than the last. Her pulse trembled under his fingers, fading, slipping. No, he whispered fiercely, pressing his forehead against hers. You will not leave me now. Not after everything. He shook her gently, desperate for her to respond. But her eyelids did not open. Her small hand slid from his chest. Lifeless, the human's heart pounded like a drum. He refused to believe this was the end he had carried. Her through the sands, fought death with his bare hands, stood against hunters with nothing but will, and he would not let her go now. Not here, not like this. He pressed his hands against her chest once more. The rhythm of life, the rhythm of life, the rhythm of hope. Breathe, he demanded, his voice breaking. His own blood dripped on the stone floor, his side burning from the wound, but he did not stop. Breathe, please. You're stronger than this. For long moments, nothing answered. The chamber was empty. Her body still, tears stung his eyes. But his hands refused to stop moving, His breath became her breath. His heartbeat became her heartbeat. It was as if he was giving her his own life. Then, a flicker. Her chest twitched beneath his hands. Her glowing marks pulsed faintly. A soft light against the darkness. The human froze, then pushed harder, pouring everything he had into her. "Come back," he begged. "Don't leave me here alone." The light grew stronger, spreading across her arms. Her face, her fragile form, her lips parted, and a soft gasp escaped. Her body arched weakly, pulling air into her lungs. Her silver eyes opened, faint but alive, and the human let out a broken laugh. Half relief, half exhaustion. "You stubborn little fighter," he whispered, tears running down. His dusty face, "I told you are not leaving me." Her lips trembled, her voice soft as wind. "Why? You fight for me." Again and again, he smiled faintly, brushing dirt from her cheek. "Because you're worth it," he said simply, "and because I'd rather die beside you than live without trying." Her eyes filled with tears, but this time they were not only of pain. There was warmth, hope, and something he could not name. Her hand, weak but steady, reached for his. She pressed it to her heart, still faint, but beating stronger now. "You saved me." "Twice," she whispered. "No one has ever done that for me." The human held her close, wrapping his arms around her small frame. "You're safe now," he said, though his body ached with wounds. But deep inside, he knew it was only partly true. The hunters may have fallen, but more would come if her own people feared her enough to bury her alive. They would not stop hunting. The girl seemed to know it too. Her silver eyes looked into his with quiet understanding. "They will chase us," she said softly, "as long as I live. They will not rest." He nodded, tightening his grip on her hand. "Then let them come," he answered, his voice steady. "They'll find I'm not so easy to kill." She gave a faint, tired smile. Her fragile body leaned into him, her warmth pressing against his chest. For the first time since he found her under the sands, she did not look afraid. Instead, she looked alive, filled with a fragile but fierce trust. The sun rose higher, its light spilling through cracks in the ruined ceiling. Dust turned golden, the chamber shining with both dawn and her silver glow. Together, they stood, weak but unbroken. The girl leaned on him, her small hand never leaving his. And he knew, without doubt, that their paths were now bound forever. She whispered one final word as they stepped into the desert light. Not in fear, not in despair, but in quiet strength. Together, the human nodded, his tired eyes filled. "With fire? Yes," he said softly. Together, the desert stretched before them. Endless and cruel, but no longer empty, because now, two hearts walked across it, one human, one alien. Both had defied death itself, and as long as they stayed together, no force in the stars could break them.